Okay. If you're in the group, you know that the time might change depending on what people vote on. But today, this is 4 p.m. EST. We'll see what most people say, and that will determine what time we're going to be meeting every week. But yeah, so this is the reading session, as I've already said. And we'll be going through the types of questions. So if you're not new to these lessons, you probably heard me give this speech before, but I like to say it all the time just for the sake of those who are new, and also because it's just really important. So the reading section is very unique. It's not like the writing and the math sections. It's not where like once you know the information, you have it. Like it's not like once you know the use of a full stop, then you're good. It's very, very different. It's not like once you know the formula and you can solve questions, you're okay. Reading is very, I don't know what word I can use, but it's a learning curve. You need to practice as much as you can for you to be able to understand the questions every time. It's a skill. I think that's the best word I can use. Reading is really a skill that everyone can get. The same way it was for comprehension in like high school and primary, where they give you the information and whatnot. Like it's a very different subject. But this one is obviously not as straightforward as a comprehension exam because this is the SAT. It's supposed to test how ready you are for college. So it really goes beyond like just giving you information and asking you to answer it. So if you approach the reading exam like that and you're just like, oh, let me just read and come up with the answer, that's not going to work. Reading is very unique to the SAT. So what I mean is it's not a matter of, oh, like let's say for example, let me scroll. Let's say for example, you're looking at question 7, right? This is a reading question. And it's given you a passage. The question is asking you is what's the main purpose of the text? You have to know, like, what does the College Board define as the main purpose? It's not just a matter of, oh, I read this, now let me do this. Like, you need to really understand what the question is asking you for you to answer the question. It's not like comprehension where it's like, oh, let me use my opinion. It's not like that. There's one correct answer and only one. So all the time, your question should be, what does the College Board want me to find? And that's very easy because there's a lot of practice questions. As I've already mentioned, they're like tests available. And then also, in addition to that, like on those practice questions, they give you explanations of everything, right? So you're able to read through and then see, okay, what were they thinking when they picked this as the right answer? Because once you're able to think like that, it becomes very easy for you to adapt like your approach to every different paper that you take. So in conclusion, reading is very different. You can't just approach it like everything else. You need to understand the types of questions and the approach that the College Board wants you to take for you to be able to answer those questions. So that's what we'll be doing in the reading section of our practice. We're going to go through the types of questions and then really understand like what does this question need me to do? Because you understanding the passage is really like a quota of what you need for you to answer the question. A really huge chunk of it is you understanding the question. And then that tells you how to find it, basically. If you don't know what you're looking for, how can you find it, right? If you don't know what something looks like, how can you find it? Yeah. So also available in the group is a cheat sheet. But before we go to that, I just wanted to show you guys something. This is the first practice test or second practice test. The scoring part of it. It's so easy to say, okay, no, maybe if I just get one wrong, or even if I just get two wrong, having such an approach is very dangerous, right? Because I want you to see how the scale is going, right? It's going, these are the numbers, right? This is the raw score. It's increasing, and then the score that you get is also increasing at the same time. So let's say if you have 66, it could either be 800 or 790. If you have 65, I'm just showing you how like it's not really fixed. Like if you get 5 wrong, you're getting this amount. It really changes. Like here, there's 790, there's no 780. It jumps. And there's a lot of like differences that come based on the exam, right? If the exam is very easy, the scale is also not forgiving. It will be like sometimes it can be you get one wrong and you have like 780, 770. Look at this one, it's 770, right? So the point is, don't like, what can I say? It's easy to be like, oh, let me, like, if this question is hard for you, it's easy to be like, oh, let me focus on this other question. or like, it's okay even if I get all of these wrong, at least I get all of these right. You're not guaranteed anything on the SAT because it's a scale of grading. It's not like one wrong is 90% all the time. So the point is just give it your best and know all that you can. Like your aim should be to get as many points as you can because it's really just, it's not set in stone. So the more that you get right, the better it's going to be for you. Yeah, so hopefully these sessions help you with all the types of questions in the reading section. And you're able to at least even attempt all of them. So don't make any exceptions when you're studying. Like really get all that you can get because there's just no guarantee in anything that you're doing. Yeah. So any questions so far? Or anyone wants to add anything? All right. So we're going to go into the types of questions and I will share the cheat sheet. Again, this is available in the group description if you're in the WhatsApp group, and you'll be able to use it from there. So there are different types of questions. And like I said, the main thing in the reading section is you understanding the type of question that it is, because you can't look for something that you don't know. You have to know what the question is asking, how the answer is supposed to look. And it's also helpful to know like what kind of traps does the College Board usually set, because that also like tells you, okay, this is definitely the wrong answer. And then you can use the elimination method. So there are three main types of questions, or let me just say two main types of questions. There are a lot of changes, like I said, that have been made, but based on the practice test that was released, you had a lot of big idea questions, a lot of function questions, and a lot of command of evidence. So normally there are also more types of questions. By the way, if you're not familiar with them, we'll definitely go through what each one is, but just an outline. There are many types of questions, and you have to know what each type of question is asking for you to be able to answer the question. So for today, I want us to start on one of the types of questions, and then we're going to start on practice. And then the next time we have a session, we'll just do practice on that type of question. And then we'll be moving like that, depending on how everything goes based on who's there in the meeting. We might need to repeat and whatnot. But yes, so we have three main types of questions. I'll put them in the chat. Let's see. And also I'm monitoring the chat throughout. So if you want to say something, but you don't want to unmute, you can just put it in the chat. I'll be able to see it. So there's big idea questions, which are the main, I'll say, main types of questions based on like previous, based on the exams that were given. Then you have function questions, which are also quite a huge amount of like the reading questions. Then you have command of evidence. So for now, I would say these are like the big three, and you really need to be very confident in them for you to do well in the exam. So I'm going to leave it open and let you guys choose. So it's up to you guys who are here in the meeting. So anyone has a preference on which one they want us to do today? Feel free to type in the chat. You can unmute. Yeah. I see someone just joined us. So we're starting to go through the types of questions in the reading section. And I was explaining that there are three main types of questions that you find on the reading section. There's big idea, function, and command of evidence. So I want us to do one of these three today. And I want you guys to choose which one we should do today. So it's up to you guys. Anyone can type in the chat or unmute. Yeah, any preference? Can you guys hear me just to make sure? All right, great, great, great. Thank you guys. So you have command of evidence. Anyone has a different suggestion? Or should we go with command of evidence? Okay, so we'll go with command of evidence. Thank you guys for your input. The main reason I'm asking is just because I want this session to be as, like I want everyone to gain as much as possible from this session. So it's important that I know like where we are, maybe what you would prefer to have us go through. So we're going to go through command of evidence. And for those who've joined us, this is a reading session. My name is Kutemwa, if you're new. And we'll be going through command of evidence questions. And like I said, this is not like a substitute for you reading the book in any way. This is more like an application-based lesson. So it's like us looking at the big picture of like, what's the question? How do I answer the question? Like, what are the practical steps I can take to answer the question? And then like, what are the common like errors that are there in these types of questions? So this is the cheat sheet that you should have access to if you're in the WhatsApp group. If you're not in the WhatsApp group, you probably should be because you're in the meeting. But if you're not, you can send me a direct message on this same Zoom meeting and I can add you to the meeting. Okay, so for those who are new, I really love it when you guys interact and take part in the lesson. So feel free to interrupt me at any point if you have anything to say, even if it's like an addition or you have a question, maybe you didn't hear what I said, you want me to repeat, just let me know. And also I'll be monitoring the chat the entire time. So if you want to say something but you don't want to speak, you can still just like type it in the chat and I'll be able to see it. Okay. So we're going through command of evidence. The introduction here is very brief, but it brings out the main points that you need to know. Anyway, it's a different color. Okay, it brings out the main points that you need to know about command of evidence. And first of all, you might not know what a command of evidence question is, and it explains itself. It's why they ask you. Okay, so yeah, so someone you put in the chat command of evidence. Yes, so this is where they ask you to like prove, basically, prove a point. I'll put it that way. And there are different ways that command of evidence questions are like phrased and put in the reading section. I will say it's very different from how it used to be like on the old SAT, because then the passage was long. It was like maybe 92 lines. And then they would ask you like, which line gives evidence for this? But for you guys, the passage is really short. So it wouldn't make sense to ask you like which sentence, because you have like 4 sentences to choose from, which, doesn't really test anything. So that's the biggest thing, is that evidence looks very different for you guys than it did for us, which is very good because you don't have to like read through and filter through an entire passage. It's just like whatever is given to you, it's not as bulky as it was. Yeah. So even this advice, I need to edit it because this mainly applies to the old SAT. But the biggest thing about command of evidence is there's always going to be a claim. And that's really important because they won't just like ask you randomly, like maybe which scenario would support this information, right? They're going to ask you, they're going to give you the claim. So that's the important thing. The claim is like the subject, right? It's kind of like, it explains what you're looking for. So before you can look for it, you have to know what it is. And I've already given that analogy of like, you can't find something if you don't know what it looks like. Like you need to know what you're looking for you to be able to like answer the question. So that's the first step that you should take whenever you're asked for any kind of evidence. Normally, from what I've seen, we'll go through some questions together so you know like exactly how it looks. But from what I've seen, they'll ask you to identify a scenario from like a bunch of random options on like which one supports a certain point made in the passage. So it's really important that you know what you're looking for. So understand the question, understand the subject of what you're looking for. And then after doing that, that's not enough because you can understand something, but still not know what you're looking for, right? So you need to know what kind of information is needed. And like, it's helpful to kind of state it to yourself. I did that a lot, like just to make sure I really understand what the question is asking me. So it's like if they ask you which scenario, if true, would support the fact that I don't know, would support the fact that water is blue, random, but support the fact that water is blue, right? Then you have to think, okay, what kind of information am I looking for? Then you have to tell yourself like, okay, I'm looking for anything that like suggests that water is blue. Other times it's going to be like the other way around. It's going to ask you like which information refutes a claim. So in that case, you're trying to like disprove something, right? So in that case, the information that you need is something that says water is not blue. And that's a very basic example, but it portrays like what you're supposed to do. It goes beyond just like, oh, I've read this sentence. It's like, okay, now what do I need to prove? Because it's kind of like a debate. Like you're looking for something that supports the point. So it might not directly outright say water is blue. It might just be like something that alludes to the fact that water is blue. But it's always going to be one answer, and it's definitely going to like directly prove the claim. So that's another thing. Your answer should be directly proving the claim. Yes. So it's very important that whatever you choose, you know what you're looking for, and you know the kind of information that you need to prove whatever you're proving. And then you make sure that you directly prove the claim. Yeah. So it's a very basic question, but I'm just emphasizing the fact that if you don't really understand what the claim is, you won't be able to find what the answer is. And then sometimes you need to, this is mainly based on the other SAT, but it emphasizes the fact that sometimes you need to like read in between the lines to get the concept of something, right? It's easy because I've been given like 4 random examples, right? It's easy to like pick the wrong aspect of the point, if that makes sense. That's very easy to do. I know that when you go through questions, this is all going to make sense. But the whole point is they give you what you need, but you have to kind of really understand it for you to be able to figure out the question. So this is a very short theory part of it. I want us to spend more time going through questions. So I'll stop the share. And whenever we're going through questions, I really try to stick to the first practice test just because I don't want to like finish you guys' practice. I want you guys to have all the possible questions you can have for your practice. So we'll mainly be using practice test 1 and then sometimes practice test 2. But I just want you guys to have like the rest for your own practice without us going through. Yeah. So again, if you're new, the reading and writing sections, they were not combined before, now they are. But the main thing is they won't tell you like this is the reading question and this is the writing question. You have to know. You have to figure out which one is which is really important for reading because like I said, your approach for each type of question is different. So you can't just be like going through the questions. You have to know what kind of question is this? What am I going to do? What approach is going to work? That's really, really important. I can't emphasize that enough. Like I took the SAT multiple times and like the first times I was taking it, I was doing so bad in the reading section. But the last time I took it, reading was my highest section. And the difference was now I was paying attention to like, oh, this is an inference question. What do I do? Like, oh, this is what type of question? So that's really, really important because that determines, like I said, what approach you use, which could also like determine whether you get the answer right or not. Yeah. So a rule of thumb for finding out like which section a question is for is reading is very it's literature. It asks you about like understanding the passage. Writing is grammar. That's all it is. So anything that asks you about anything that doesn't have to do with like the story of a passage is reading. So if it asks you about a full stop, which one like is the best grammatical choice or which one is the best word choice? So that's apart from the passage. It's just like, do you understand the grammar of the passage? So if we scroll through these questions, you see question 1 asks you like complete, it's a logical word choice. So this is definitely writing. This is grammar. And that's the same as those. And I found a pattern that most of like the first like 6 questions are always writing, at least from what I've seen. And then the moment you get to 7, you hit reading, and it's reading, 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 and then at the end it switches back to writing and so on. But anyway, as long as you know how to identify which is which, you shouldn't have to like take time. It doesn't take a while. Like look at this question, question 7. It literally tells you main purpose. So you know that it's a main purpose reading question. Function. So it's not like it will take you like a whole deciphering, 7 minutes just to figure out what type of question it is. It's very straightforward, except that you have to be aware of it and aware of what it means for you when that's the case. Yes, so function, main purpose. And this is a literature question just about the passage. Okay, just directly, most effectively illustrates the claim. Yes, thread 13. I'm trying to see if 12 is one as well. Let's see. 12 says to you is an 1856 poem by Walt Whitman. In the poem, Whitman suggests that readers whom he addresses directly have not fully understood themselves writing. And then Okay, then it says, which quotation from to you most effectively illustrates? Okay, great. 12 is also an evidence question. So we have 12 and 13. Let's see if this is infographics. Okay, so we're going to go through these two questions, and the first one we'll do together. Second one, I want you guys to do it. And then we'll see if we can find more as well in this paper. Okay, so I'm going to read through the question again. It says, to you is an 1856 poem. Yes, in the poem, Whitman suggests that readers whom he addresses directly have not fully understood themselves writing, and then, yeah. So which quotation from to you most effectively illustrates the claim? So we already talked about it, right? Different parts to a question. First step is identify the claim. So first you have to know what the claim is, right? That's the first part. You have to know what you're being asked for. So in this case, this is the claim. It says, Whitman suggests that readers whom he addresses directly have not fully understood themselves. And it hasn't said this is the claim, but just from reading, you know, like this is the name of the poem. And then this is just saying what he says, that readers, so we're trying to prove the claim that readers have not fully understood themselves, right? Then we said we have to go a step further and determine what kind of information do we need. So it's not just about reading that sentence and identifying the claim from the question. You have to know what kind of information do you need to prove that claim, right? So we're looking for information that suggests that readers have not fully understood. So we need anything, like this is just a conscious step, right? We need anything that says they have not understood themselves. And every part of this is important, right? It says have not understood themselves fully. So even anything that says like they made a mistake, when you know what I mean, like it might not directly say they have not understood themselves, but anything that just shows that shows a lack of understanding is what we're looking for. So now we've read through the claim and now we know what kind of information we need. Then the next step is to read through the options, obviously. In such type of questions, it has to be elimination method because, yes, elimination method, because each part is different. It's not like a, what kind of question can we have? It's not like a function question or something where it's like set in stone. It's not like every kind of question kind of looks the same. In this one, everyone is completely different. So that's your best bet. You have to use elimination method. And what helps you through the elimination method is what we did in the beginning, right? You knowing what you're looking for. That's what's going to help you. So like I said, for this one, I'm going to go through it together. And A says, you have not known what you are. You have slumbered upon yourself all your life. Your eyelids have been the same as closed most of the time. Okay, so we're using elimination method. What should we do? Okay, so I want you guys to say if you think we should eliminate or keep it. So what do you guys think? Eliminate it or keep it? Like, do you see any semblance of what we're looking for in this option? And you can type it in the chat as well. So remove it or keep it. Even if you're not sure, you can still type it in the chat. This is really important just so we know like where all of us are. And it's a great exercise as well, because you have to do this either way during your exam and during your practices and so on. Yeah, so what do you think? Do you think A could possibly be an answer? And without looking at the other options, we're just looking at A on its own. Okay, we'll come back to it. Let's go to B. B says, these immense meadows, these interminable rivers, you are immense and interminable as they. So what do we think about B? Keep it or leave it? interminable. So that means endless. So it's saying these immense meadows, these endless rivers, you are immense and endless as they. So what do you guys think? Should we keep it or remove it? Okay, is it about the question? Okay, great. Okay, so we're going to go through the question again. Thanks for that feedback. That's why I really love it when you guys are taking part, because I would have kept going without knowing that that the question wasn't really clear. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Okay, so the question is asking, To You is an 1856 poem by Walt Whitman. In the poem, Whitman suggests that readers whom he addresses directly have not fully understood themselves writing. And then the question is, which quotation from To You most effectively illustrates this claim? So this is a command of evidence question, in that it's asking you to like prove. So it's asking you to illustrate the claim. Okay, so the point is that there's a poem. The title of the poem is To You. That's the title of the poem. And then you haven't seen the poem. The poem is the options, because it's asking you which quotation from the poem. So option A, B, C, and D are parts of the poem. And then the question is, which quotation illustrates the claim? So now what's the claim? That's when we went back to read the question. And it says, in the poem, Whitman suggests that the readers have not fully understood themselves writing. So the quotation is supposed to be in this space right here. So meaning we're supposed to choose an option that shows that readers have not fully understood themselves. So now we're reading through the options and seeing like which of these options suggests that readers have not fully understood themselves. So that's what the question is asking. It's like read these and see which one shows that readers have not fully understood themselves. So I hope that clarifies the question better. And we'll go through the options again, just like to make sure we're on the same page and see what we think. So A says, you have not known what you are. You have slumbered upon yourself all your life. Your eyelids have been the same as closed most of the time. So do we think this has some qualities of an answer? Should we keep it or eliminate it? Keep it. Okay, great. Thank you. So we're keeping A. We're going to B. B says, these immense meadows, these interminable rivers, you are immense or interminable as they. And the word interminable is like endless. So it's saying these endless meadows, these endless rivers, you are immense and endless as they. So what do we think about B? Keep it or eliminate it? And you can also unmute yourself if you want to do so. And you can also type in the chat. So what about B? Should we keep it or eliminate? Okay, eliminate. If anyone is like, doesn't agree, you can also still say, but we're going to eliminate B. Then we're going to go to C. C says, I should have made my way straight to you long ago. I should have blabbed nothing but you. I should have chanted nothing but you. So for this one, what do we think? Should we keep it or eliminate it? Eliminate. Okay, I'm going to eliminate it. I agree. D says, I will leave all and come and make the hymns of you. None has understood you, but I understand you. So what of D? Keep it or eliminate it. And if you're not sure, you can also say that too. So what do we think about D? Unsure. Okay. Okay. So this is great. I love this question because it really shows a lot about these types of questions and a lot of points. I'll try to like put them in point form in the chat as we like go through them again. But the biggest thing is don't make what word can I use? The word is like on the tip of my tongue, but it's not coming out. Anyway, not exceptions, but I'll say exceptions. If the word comes, if the right word comes, I'll use it. But the biggest thing with such questions is if you read through A and you're not really sure, you go to B, you have a higher chance of trying to make B the answer, if that makes sense. Like if you're looking at A and B and you start trying to like compare and say like, oh, B maybe sounds better than A. That's a trap, right? And it's specifically because of how the SAT is designed. The fact that the SAT is a standardized test, and I say this so much, I'm pretty sure. Um, Everyone who's attended my classes remembers this because I say it so many times. But it's a standardized test, and that means there should only be one correct answer for every question. So that means you will never be choosing between two answers that could both be, you know what I'm saying? Like there'll never be two answers that have some element of truth, or you will never have to choose between two correct answers ever. Like, yeah, that would defeat the purpose of the exam. That would make the answer key very wrong because the answer key only has one answer per question, right? So you will never at any point have to choose between two correct answers. So that means if ever you're stuck between two and you're trying to choose, it means either you haven't understood the question or you have misread some part of it. But there's always only going to be one answer for every question. That's what I was emphasizing when we were going through, like as you go through the options, go through them one at a time. Like that will help you not do that. Because if you're looking at A as A, like when you're on A, you're only focused on A. That will really help you. And this is not just for the reading and not just for this type of question, just in general. It's very important that you're not comparing answers because it's never going to be like, oh, A is more correct than B. It's going to be A is correct, B is wrong all the time. So that's really, really important that you're looking at questions one at a time, right? So elimination method is really good because you're looking at A, then you're keeping it or removing it. And if you want, you can then mark. I don't know how it is on the digital SAT, but like in your mind, you'll be like, okay, it's definitely not B. And you leave B behind because you're sure like, okay, based on what I've understood from the question, B is not the answer, right? So when we're going through, we kept A, right? We know what we're looking for is something that says the readers have not understood themselves. A directly says that, right? And that's the thing. Answers will always be direct. Like it's very easy. I don't know. I think our school system really makes us think everyone is against us. Like, let me type that in the chat. Every answers will always be direct. It's so easy to be like, oh, they're trying to trick me. Like it can't be this easy. Oh, I don't know. It's so easy to like start making exceptions and saying, oh, maybe no, this answer I found it too fast or something like that. But you have to trust yourself like to some extent. And yeah, answers will always be direct, especially on the reading section. And this is what makes it standardized. It's there's one answer because there's one answer. Like there's only one answer that's going to directly answer the question. And which part of A is the answer? The first line. It says, you have not known what you are, period. Like, that's all that you need, right? Because what's being talked about in the question is the readers not understanding themselves. So he's talking to the readers and saying, you have not known what you are, meaning they haven't fully understood themselves, right? You have slumbered upon yourself all your life. So it's all about, oh, you have not like been paying attention to yourself. Your eyelids have been the same as closed most of the time. So it's directly answered the question. So A, we keep A, right? Because it's directly like, even though it hasn't used the exact words, it's told us like, yeah, for them to not know what they are, they don't understand what they are. It's basically rephrasing. what's been given. And that's how most questions on the reading section are going to be. It's a rephrasing game. So you have to be able to like get to that level where you can see like, yeah, these two are saying the same things and not have to like go beyond, right? Don't get philosophical. And I say that because if you look at B, like B says, these immense meadows, these interminable rivers, you are as immense and interminable as they, right? And you'd be like, oh, it's talking to the readers. Maybe the readers are like endless, like the rivers. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's very easy to make B an answer in your mind and be like, oh, the people are endless as ever. Like, they're immense, they're deep people. Like, so meaning they haven't, it's very easy to get to that point where it gets so philosophical that B seems like an answer to you. Don't do that. That's very subjective for one. Like, it's easy for two people to come up with two different answers if that's what you need to do to come to the answer. So that's why I said answers are always direct. You never have to like really decipher like, oh, what does this mean in the real world, poetry, whatnot. No. Even though this is poetry, the answer is direct. So B is not an answer. And C kind of is like that as well. It says, I should have made my way straight to you long ago. I should have blabbed nothing about you. I should have chanted nothing but you. This could also somehow be taken to be an answer, but it doesn't directly say anything about what we're looking for. C is out. D answers the wrong question in a way, right? It says, I will leave all and come and make the hymns of you. No one has understood you. This is the other way around. We're looking for evidence that says the readers have not fully understood themselves. We're not talking about other people understanding them. So this is why it's important for you to like not only read the claim, but really like analyze the claim and like go beyond and answer the question, like what kind of information do I need to answer this question? So this is saying no one has understood you, but I understand you. This is, this is completely different from what we're looking for, the complete opposite of what we're looking for, because talking about other people understanding them, not themselves. So that's what makes D wrong. And this question, like I said, perfectly illustrates what you need to do and what you don't need to do for these types of questions. Remember, it's always going to be direct, like we saw in the first sentence. Remember, you never have to like go all philosophical and like decipher what the passage is trying to say. No, it's not like that. Like I said, that would be very subjective, and then there wouldn't be one right answer. So that's really important. And make sure you're answering the right claim properly. Like, yeah, when an answer is right, it's right. You never have to like make any exception. Like you never have to be like, oh, maybe this, or maybe, if the answer is right, it's right. And if you haven't figured out that it's right, it means you haven't understood the question or you misread the question or you haven't understood the option itself. But one answer for every question. That's really important. Yeah, thanks for taking part, guys. Any questions on question 12? Anyone who hasn't understood some aspect of it, or yeah, anything to add on question 12? All right, I'll take it. We're all good on question 12. So I'm going to go to question 13, which is also command of evidence. And it's quite a long question. One thing I really advise is read the question first, because that tells you what you're looking for before you read the passage. Because if you haven't read through, you're going to have to read through again. And that's like unnecessary time that's being, taken away. So this time I'll leave it to you guys to do the analysis. So we said step 1, everything is in the chat. Step 1 is identify the claim. Step 2, what kind of information do you need? Step 3, use elimination method. Let me see if I can zoom out a little bit so you can see everything. Okay, great. This is great practice for you guys, so I hope everyone takes part in the question. Okay, so question is, which finding, if true, would most directly, you see the word, we said you have to be direct, and the question has told you it's direct. So no going beyond. Whatever is given to you is given to you, right? So it says, which finding, if true, would most directly support the student's claim? Okay, and we have to figure out, of course, what the claim is and figure out what kind of information we need. But I'm just going to read you the passage. I'll leave the figuring out to you guys. And then that will help us see where we are, if we need to do more practice, if we're comfortable, and all those things. Okay. Okay, the passage is up here. Says born in 1891 to a Quechua-speaking family in the Andes Mountains of Peru. Martin Chambi is today considered to be one of the most renowned figures of Latin American photography. In a paper for an art history class, a student claims that Chambi's photographs have considerable ethnographic value in his work. Chambi was able to capture diverse elements of Peruvian society, representing his subjects with both dignity and authenticity. Okay. So we know that there are like a bunch of characters in this story. So it's important to really know what the claim is, figure out what the claim is, right? And the claim is about this, what the student said, right? Okay, so I've left that to you guys to read through the passage and identify the claim. Hopefully you already have while we were reading through. Okay, then the options. A says, Chambi took many commissioned portraits of wealthy Peruvians, but he also produced hundreds of images carefully documenting the people, sites, and customs of indigenous communities in the Andes. B says, Chambi's photographs demonstrate a high level of technical skill as seen in his strategic use of illumination to create dramatic light and shadow contrasts. C says, during his lifetime, Chambi was known and celebrated both within and outside his native Peru, and his work was published in places like Argentina, Spain, and Mexico. D says some of the peoples and places Chambi photographed had long been popular subjects of Peruvian photographers. So what do we think? A, B, C, or D? I'll give you guys, I think just a minute to for 2 minutes. Let me set a timer for 2 minutes. I'll give you guys 2 minutes to go through the question and then type your answer in the chat, or even if you can also say, oh, I eliminated A or I eliminated B, just so we have we go through it in a group but together. So 2 minutes to go through the question and come up with your answer. Okay, we're at the 2 minute mark. And I see some eliminations. Thank you. Okay, so we eliminated D and C. So let's go through. So we know, first of all, what the claim is, right? We know that the claim is what the student said. I hope the rest of us are also taking part, because that's a huge part of you getting out all that you can from this meeting. But yeah, it says, what's this? It literally says a student claims, right? Okay, I see an A. Thank you for that. So it literally says a student claims. So it's directly told you what the claim is, right? The claim is that Chambi's photographers have considerable ethnographic value in his work. What follows is just an example, but it says the claim is that there was ethnographic value in his work. What follows says Chambi was able to capture diverse elements of Peruvian society. And wait, let's see, in a paper, okay, his work, Chambi was able, yes, Peruvian society, okay. Yeah, so that's what the claim is. The fact that his photographs have ethnographic value. And like we said, we need something that like directly, like the question asked us, directly supports that his work had ethnographic value. So we're going to start with the eliminations first. I see D and C were eliminated. So let's eliminate them together and see why they're wrong. So C says during his lifetime, Chambi was known and celebrated both within and outside his native Peru, as his work was published in places like Argentina, Spain, and Mexico. I'm glad that you guys eliminated C, right? Because this could also somehow be taken as an answer by someone. Like you say, oh, he was probably celebrated because his work had value, and then you go for C. But that doesn't directly answer the question. So I hope we see like what I meant by sometimes we end up going beyond and like, doing unnecessary work that's really not getting us to the answer. So C is eliminated because it doesn't directly answer the question. C is out. D says some of the people and places Chambi photographed had long been popular subjects of Peruvian photographers. Again, this could be like misconstrued as an answer, but it doesn't directly answer the question. Like if other people are photographing it, that doesn't mean it had value. It's just other people are photographing it, right? So D is out because it doesn't directly answer the question. Let's go through B as well. B says Chambi's photographs demonstrate a high level of technical skill as seen in his strategic use of illumination and dramatic light to show contrasts. This does not fully capture the claim. The claim tells us that there was ethnographic value. So it's not saying his work was good. Like all this is explaining is like technical, yeah, this is what he was doing in his photographs. It doesn't talk about any ethnographic value at all. So B is out as well because it's just off. It doesn't illustrate what the claim is asking. A says, Chambi took commissioned portraits of wealthy Peruvians, but he also produced hundreds of images carefully documenting the people, sites, and customs of indigenous people in the Andes. Now, this is directly answering the question, right? The first part is like an addition. He took photos of wealthy Peruvians, but he also produced, what was documenting people, sites, and customs, which is exactly what ethnographic value would be. So A is our answer. Thank you guys. But yeah, I hope we were able to like eliminate the others individually, because that you need to do that like as you go. Because what if A wasn't like you go read through A, it's not the one, then you have to go through B. Like it's really a process that you have to go through all the time. Yeah, so we keep A. Does anyone not agree with A, or does anyone have any question or need clarity on anything? Okay, great. I want us to practice just one. So pretty sure there should only be two in this specific paper. This is infographics. Okay, here we go. What question is this? 16. Let me make sure I can see everything. Okay. It's not moving up. Okay, there we go. So remember we start with the question. It says, which finding, if true, would most directly support the researcher's hypothesis? Okay, so we've been asked what would directly support. So this is definitely an evidence question. And we'll do it in the same fashion. I'll read through the passage. I'll read through A, B, C, and D, and I'll give you guys time to eliminate and see what you think. So it says, in the mountains of Brazil, no need to read what that name is. Let's say BT and BM two plants in the V family establish themselves on soilless, nutrient-poor patches of quartzite rock. Plant ecologists Anna Abrahao and Patricia De Brito Costa used microscopic analysis to determine that the roots of the BT and BM, which grow directly into the quartzite, have clusters of fine hairs near the root tip. Further analysis indicated that these hairs secrete both malic and citric salts. The researchers hypothesized that the plants depend on dissolving underlying rock with these acids, as the process not only creates channels for continued growth, but also releases phosphates that provide the vital nutrient phosphorus. A says other species in the V family are found in terrains with more soil, but have root structures similar to those of BT and BM. B says, though BT and BM both secrete citric acid and malic acids, each species produces the acids in different proportions. C says the roots of BT and BM carve new entry points into rocks even when the cracks in the surface are readily available. B says BT and BM thrive even when transferred to the surfaces of rocks that do not contain phosphates. So again, same fashion, I'll put a timer for 2 minutes and I want you guys to eliminate, go through, see what you think. Okay, so this is great progress. So we eliminated A and D. Thank you guys for taking part. Okay, I see C as the answer. So as usual, we start with the eliminated ones and see, and go through why they're eliminated. So A was the first to be eliminated. It says other species in the V family are found in terrains with more soil, but have root structures similar to those of BT and BM. So if you follow the passage, the basis is that the soil is what causes the roots to like go deeper, right? Thank you for the answer. So we have C and B. We'll go through both of them. So so A, the basis of this story is that they establish themselves in soilless, nutrient-poor patches of that rock, right? And then they grow directly, they have fine root, they have fine hairs on the tip. And then it says they depend on, so the hypothesis is that they depend on dissolving this rock with the acids. So yes, as they cannot process only creates channels for continued growth through the release of the process. Yeah, so the point is A doesn't match up because if other plants, in terrains with more soil also have that, it doesn't really support, let's see. Okay, I don't know what I did to my screen. Okay, yeah. So this one says if they're in places of more soil, that doesn't directly support the claim, first of all, and it would a little bit discount the claim in a way. So A is out. And the other one that was eliminated is D. So D says BT and BM thrive even when transferred to the surfaces of rocks that do not contain phosphates. Obviously, this is going in the opposite direction because it's saying that's the reason, right? It says released, but also, so it says the last sentence in the claim, the process not only creates channels for continued growth, but also releases phosphates that provide the vital nutrient phosphorus, right? So this is wrong because it's like the reason that they have to go deep is for the phosphorus. So then why would they thrive and why would they continue growing if there are no phosphates in the soil? So let's go to B. B says BT and BM both secrete citric and malic acids. Each species produces acids in different proportions. So let's go back to the part that talked about citric and malic acids. It says further indicated that these hairs secrete both citric and malic acids. Researchers hypothesize that they depend on dissolving the rock. So the hypothesis is talking about the function of the acids, right? It's talking about them dissolving the rock with the acids and what that does. So the basis of the hypothesis, which is important, like we said, we have to go further, right? After reading the hypothesis, we have to see what kind of information do we need. So it says it's the dissolving that gives the nutrients, right? So if we look at option B, the main thing it's saying, because we already know that they both secrete citric and malic acids, this part is what B is saying, that each species produces acids in different proportions. So this doesn't talk about the claim, right? The claim is that they dissolve, the claim is about the function of them dissolving the rock. So B is like kind of off topic. But if you look at C, it says the roots of BT and BM carve new entry points into rocks even when cracks in the surface are readily available. This is the perfect example of, it's a perfect example when like the answer is not directly like, not directly, that's the wrong answer. But like it's not going to be word for word. Let me put it that way. It shows you that it's not going to be word for word, which is why you really need to understand the claim for you to see what the answer is going to be, right? Because it says these roots, they carve entry points even when cracks are available. This directly goes with the claim because the claim is saying that they dissolve the rock to get the phosphates, right? So that would make sense. If they still crack new entry points, even when there are cracks, it means they're not trying to like just get into the rock. They're trying to dissolve the rock, right? So C definitely supports the claim because it talks about the function of them dissolving the rock. And it makes sense that they would still make their own entry points, even when there are cracks available in the rock. So it's the only one that like talks about some part of the claim which is in the hypothesis part. Yeah, so how do we feel about this question? Do we all agree with C, or are there still questions? Okay, great. All right. So just to sum up everything we've talked about, um, yeah, to sum up everything we've talked about for the reading section, or for today's reading section, we talked about command of evidence. I really wanted everyone to take part in the questions just because you've seen how much you learn from actually doing it and like implying or applying all the strategies that we've talked about. So the chat already has the points. I don't know if you guys are taking notes, but like it's just really important for you to remember what you have to do. So we said first you have to identify the claim because that tells you what you're looking for. Like, yeah, because if you look at these questions, they're really based on the claim, which illustrates the claim, directly supports the claim. And so did the other question that we looked at. All of them are asking you about the claim, but you have to go beyond that and really see like what kind of information are you looking for. And we saw in the last question that the hypothesis was quite long, and like we had to remember that we're looking for information that proves the big part of the hypothesis. And then thirdly, elimination method. Like we said, go through one option at a time because it's easy to get lost in an option and try to start qualifying like, oh, this, oh, that. So I love that you guys are eliminating and like putting it in the chat because that shows like, okay, now I'm done with A. Now let me go to B. And you're looking at each like on its own merit because you don't need B to see that A is an answer, if that makes sense. So yeah, this was today's session. It's going to end earlier than usual because I have a commitment, but I'll stay a little bit longer. Let me stop recording.